Oh my goodness. What a now as you know, this is all based on Starbase 80 and I'm your old pal Captain John. And things go wrong around here. Much more than they go right. And our internet relationship here at the especially from my section of the space station have not been really technically things haven't been great. So things are good right now. They're stable. Ooh, please. And we're ready. We're ready to do last Thursday's show now on a Wednesday night. And I realize if you're not in the western part of the United States, this is crazy late for you. And I'm sorry. But this is the best we could do. And well, let's get started, shall we? Picard, season 3. Our subject, our love, and when I say we, us, I am referring, of course, to me and to my wonderful co-host. You know him, you love him, and if you don't, then you shall. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our chief science fiction officer of Starbase 80, Mr. Joe Townsell. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for being up. Little bit late, little not terribly late. Are you much of a night owl these days, Joe?
Actually, I'm fairly nocturnal by nature, to be honest.
That would make sense.
Sometimes I tend to get going around this time, so I'm good.
Same here. Yeah. It's so funny because you're creative types, and of course, Joe Townsell, a celebrated author and host of these here podcasts.
Thank you, sir.
The creative types do have kind of an off schedule. Yeah, 9 p.m. for me usually is, although it's 8 p.m. Here in California, but where you are, it's 9.
It is 9 p.m. here, yes.
Yeah, I start to get cooking a little bit. Sometimes 11 p.m. is like my hottest time, which is insane. Yeah. When I lived on the East Coast, well, that's fine. That's 8 p.m. for people on the West Coast. That's great. But yeah, it's pretty late. Like if we want our friend Craig from the UK to join us, I think we're crossing our fingers that he wakes up early for breakfast and decides to watch it. I think it's nuts.
Well, John, I appreciated your explanation of the little mishaps that occurred last week. To put it another way, our good friend, the late, great Al Calavici, it might have told Sam Beckett, your internet went a little caca.
If I do a spit take, it's so expensive. There's so much equipment around me. But I can't help it. You're a funny man, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
Folks at home, if you've been with us, and I hope you have, we have been watching Picard season 3. It's on Paramount Plus. I think internationally it might be on some other places, but right now, us being North Americans, this is how we enjoy it. And Joe, just very quickly, you have seen the first 3 episodes, as have I.
Yes.
How you feeling? How you feeling about this show? Is this show meeting your expectations? Is it leaving a little to be desired? How you feeling right now?
Well, listen, I am no paid spokesperson for Paramount Plus or Alex Kurtzman or Terry Metalis or anybody.
Yeah.
I did go into this season, which is now, believe it or not, pretty much a third of the way done.
Oh my gosh, it is.
3 episodes
done. 10 episodes, right?
That's right. I went in with very high expectations, and you know what, John? In all honesty, with that preface, this season so far has exceeded those high expectations. I have nothing bad to say about it. I do have one reservation tonight, though.
Yes.
This is the first time we've done a special Wednesday edition
Yeah.
of our PICARDEST show. So make you a deal, Captain. I'll watch your back. You watch mine as we face the cameras. It is Beheading Wednesday. So we don't want a Klingon come up and lopping our head off, you know.
There is a throwaway joke in this episode where Rafi says something like, that's your casual look. What is that? What you wear to the Tuesday beheadings?
Exactly.
And Worf later, fights. He gets in a fight, and it's Worf. He's awesome. I love Worf. And then he does the beheadings are on Wednesday. Which just reminded me of like the line from oh my gosh, what is that Lindsay Lohan movie where it's like Wednesdays we wear pink.
Oh, Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. Oh
I just watched that again recently.
Did you really?
Yes.
We go so deep on this show, folks. We go so deep. It's not just sci-fi. It's just whatever you like. Bring it. We'll talk about it.
We don't have rabbit holes, Captain. We have rabbit canyons.
Oh my God, that should be the quote for this show. We have rabbit canyons. We have a rabbit channel that we used to go from rabbit London to rabbit Paris. Let's get started on this gosh darn show. Brand new piece of video. I don't know. It's a format thing that we're working with. If you don't like it, let us know. Any suggestions you have, we'd love to hear them. But when we break down the show, the first thing we do is we go over the beats. So okay, I think I can lower the rock and roll here. That is obnoxiously loud. Okay, we've got the beats. Let's go over our beats of this episode. Let me do the I always like doing this. This is, of course, the third episode of the third season of Picard. This episode is called 17 Seconds. Apple. But I think he did a hell of a job on this episode. I have to say.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, good. I'm glad you're with me on that. All right, Mr. Townsend, let's go through those beats. What do we got?
How'd you say we got them? Well, what can you say? Starts right off super exciting. Into the nebula we go, trying to make a fleet flee from the old strike there. Got a little Wrath of Khan vibe going with some of that familiar music playing in the background.
Oh my God, I actually had that in my notes. It's very Wrath of Khan this whole episode. It was so great.
Lots of great music cues.
Of all your favorite Star Trek things, TV shows, movies, cartoons, what have you, where does Wrath of Khan end up? Because for me, it's like top 5, maybe even top 3 Star Trek related things in my life that I love is Wrath of Khan.
I don't know that I would play top 10. I'll just go for that answer.
Yeah.
I mean, if I start to think about it, I mean, it's obviously it's way up there.
Yes.
Because it has all the elements, and look how many times, including in this very episode, it's been homogenized, homogenized,
homaged, referenced would be a sweet way of putting it. It is referenced. Although I have a thing that I wanted to say about that, but I will save it.
Save it for our discussion. For
breakdown. Save for down and dirty, I think.
Well, from there we skew into after the credits roll. We go to before, which by my calculation puts us around the year 2381. I'm going to say 2-3 years after the events of Nemesis.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, that makes sense.
And based also on the conversation we hear later between, Crusher and Picard, a little bit more on that later.
Yeah.
Um, we have some, decent de-aging going on there, but that's not the important thing. I mean, the important thing is the scene, and
Yes.
it's a great scene. I mean, it is, explains the title of the episode immediately, and of course gives us a foreshadowing of what's to come in a
Yeah.
similar situation with good old Jean-Luc when he has to do
Yes.
some, similar 17 seconds.
A meditation on fatherhood.
Yes.
For a Starfleet officer, like how fatherhood is. It's a lovely scene. And yes, as you mentioned, I wrote that it was it was filmed in smootho vision. They basically wipe out all the wrinkles from Patrick Stewart and from Frakes. But it's nice, and I liked it.
I think it worked better on Frakes for some reason than did on Patrick Stewart. I don't know if they thought his eyebrows were going to age prematurely because they didn't bother to color them in. If you look at Patrick Stewart from Nemesis, he looks quite a bit younger in the brows than he does in so.
Yes. Yes. And as us men will tell you, your age shows in your brows sometimes.
Yes,
And
yes.
you can go two different ways. You could be bushy and bold, like Mr. Townsend, or you can get thin. Like my eyebrows have thinned over the years. It's the strange. I keep wondering, like, do I need to color them in? Like, anyway.
And I'll tell you a secret. I don't want to digress too far from the beats, but I'll share with you and our listening public because we're all great friends, but pretty much every day right here, I have to get the razor out. So thanks, Dad, for the unibrow.
That is testosterone at work.
Okay, well, I'll take it that way then.
It's manliness happening in real time. It's a good
exactly right. Well, we after our nice scene in the past, and we saw for the first time Marina Sirtis, in a cameo
Yes.
here, which I'm kind of wondering though why you would take your newborn baby down to engineering so they can throw up over the warp core, but it's like the most dangerous area on the ship, pretty much.
Why did I just picture her with like a baby Bjorn? Like, I came down to see if everyone was okay, and the baby's just like, like, oh, I guess you're not okay now, so now I'll go. I don't. It's a terrible Marina Sirtis imitation, by the way.
But I didn't know she was like German, but that's pretty close now.
Frau Betazoid.
Yes, there you go.
But
yeah,
I wondered the same thing. And yes, the use of the word Imzadi, Imzadi, which is a beta Z term of affection. Lovely.
I mean, it translates literally as beloved.
Oh,
isn't that sweet?
That's awfully sweet. And we do know that now we know this from season 1, correct? That the marriage of Counselor Troy and William Riker, Captain Riker, has had its trials through tragedy. And that does turn up when we start talking about Thaddeus, correct?
Yes. Thaddeus, to remind everyone, when we saw the Riker Troys in season 1 of Picard, we learned that he was that young Thaddeus, when he was 15 or so, was suffering from that rare sci-fi malady that the name escapes me. And what could have saved him was synth research, which was deemed illegal and forbidden.
Was banned.
So he died.
Oh, I forgot about that part of the story. Oh, yep. Wow. Everything's sadder now. Yes. Everything's sadder. Yeah. And it's a great sadness. And I have to tell you, I just love how Frakes carries that. His acting is so deep now. I just really appreciated that.
Well, and I'll throw this in real quick because we forgot about designating our respective MVP from last week, from episode 2.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know what? If I can do that in retrospect, I'm gonna have to give.
Hang on.
Oh.
Okay, it's cheap. I'm
You know, you
sorry.
got to roll that out again later because we'll have one for episode 3 as well.
I'm resetting it.
Okay.
So
But
make
I'm
it
gonna
easy.
person, you know, just because of the way the story's unfolding thus far,
Yeah,
I know I gave it to Riker in episode 1. I'm gonna give it to Riker again for episode 2.
absolutely.
This week I
Absolutely.
have a different pick. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
get rid
Oh,
of Dunn.
oh,
Yeah,
exciting. Oh,
yeah.
good.
But you know, let's just put that out there. I mean, and if you agree, John, then we can, you know, retroactively designate our MVP for part 2. So
100%. One of the things I love about how the series has gone so
mm,
far is, if I'm remembering correctly, this is the
mm.
first of Picard season 3 that was directed by Frakes, who of course plays Captain Riker. If I'm remembering that correctly.
You remember that correctly? He directed. Well, we'll be able to talk about him again tomorrow because I'm pretty sure he's directing episodes 3 and 4.
Oh,
He
fantastic.
tends to do them 2 at a time when he does this.
Oh, that's interesting. Man, if we ever get to interview him, we must ask him about that.
Yes, make note of that. How would that be awesome, wouldn't it?
Oh my God. You know what? I'm instantly going through my mind of like all the people I know in Hollywood. Do I know anyone who knows Frakes? I'll put it out there. We'll see. We'll
Hey,
see.
you know, stranger things have happened, and why not?
Stranger things have
Including in the
definitely
series Stranger Things.
happened. That happened.
Yeah, that's true. Well, continuing on our story, so we're back to
Yes.
the present day.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get some hints that at least partially the nebula has biological as well as electromagnetic properties. So
Yes.
this is intriguing. You had an initial theory about this, didn't you, John?
I did. And this is one of those things where they keep saying, it's like, and I wrote it down here. The nebula is giving off an energy surge that is both electrical and biological. That's not for nothing.
No.
I mean, yes, there are biologic materials in space, people tell us. But why do we keep running into that? We find out that this is not actually exactly a nebula. It's something else.
Right.
And that is intriguing. That's very intriguing. So yeah, I had this theory that there was going to be this sort of I just think at this point in the story, it has to be benevolent, because there's so little benevolent forces working with our heroes right now. So, you know, I have my fingers crossed that as we find out more about whatever this non-nebula nebula is, that there will be something kind of, you know, helpery, a helping hand, a helping tentacle. I don't know what it'll be. But yeah, got my fingers crossed for that.
Well, watch out though for helping hands in space because it could belong to Apollo, right?
Grabs your ship, just grabs a ship. Not a good thing. Also, Captain Shaw had a great line about, "Oh, great! Is there any other weird shit the universe wants to throw at me?"
Well, you can tell he's not too enthusiastic because I mean he told us at the beginning, says, "Hey, we just kind of go along, do our thing. We don't blow up things. We don't." Well, we got a little bit of that this week for sure.
For a guy who just wanted to be an administrator of an exploration ship, Captain Shaw is having a really, really bad few days.
He certainly is. That the worst that's going to be coming here pretty soon in our story this week because they said they're under heavy attack and worse things are to come, of course.
Yeah.
Now, my least valuable player, just because I don't like her, maybe I'll like her better. Okay. I don't like Dr. Oak. Why is she giving our intrepid doctor such a hard time? I mean, this was the leader of Starfleet Medical at one point. Yeah. Now she's like, oh, you're just an old fossil. And oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. No, at one point, she actually says something like, things have changed so much in the last 20 years, it would take me less time to just push you out of the way than it would take for me to explain it to you. And I found it interesting because I clocked her last week. I don't know if you remember, but I clocked her in episode 2. I was like, what's up with Dr. Oak? She's got some issues. What is up with her? And now she's being a total B.
Mm-hmm.
It's International Women's Day. I don't think I should say the full B word. I'm just going to say B. Let's be, let's be respectful, says John. who brought up the whole thing about calling Dr. Oka B. But she just doesn't value Dr. Crusher, which is actually storytelling wise. What do you think about this, Mr. Novelist, Mr. Short Story Writer, Mr. Master of horror and science fiction? She is creating a force for the Doctor to have to work against, and Dr. Crusher is rising up to the occasion, being a good doctor, being in there. So is Jack, her son, by the way, which is, well, I guess he's done a few medical things in his day.
No.
But I like that. You got to make your heroes show their strong suit. And that's what I got out of that.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's a good way to introduce that aspect of the characterization. And it goes along also with the many instances where we're not being asked to be overly patient over the course of weeks.
Yeah.
To see something resolved or at least advanced.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Oak pretty much gets schooled later on when Dr. Shaw is, mortally injured.
Yes. Yeah.
And,
like,
no, he's okay. So no, he's not. There's something you can learn here, Doc.
Yeah.
And so she got schooled a little bit, and I think that we'll see. I think like Shaw himself, we're going to see some evolution of both characters. I mean, they're going to get a little bit less cocky, and then they're going to, say, hey, you know what? There's some value in these elder statesmen, so to speak.
Right. And they are like loose ends. Like everybody that we know in Star Trek is some weird, odd end, including 7 of 9, who was serving as the first officer under Captain Shaw.
Yeah.
She's got her issues going on too.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of 7 of 9, one of the scenes I enjoyed, of course it comes in a fairly distant second to the big scene of the week, which we'll get to shortly.
Oh yeah.
But I did enjoy Sidney LaForge visiting Commander 7 in her quarters to try to reassure her a bit.
I love
and to call her by her preferred name and not to utilize the dead naming of Captain Shaw.
Whoa, that is dead naming, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought of it that way. But yeah, I mean, she's not just, is it Annika?
Annika Hansen, but
Annika Hansen.
She wasn't Annika. She has been Annika Hansen since she was 8 years old.
I saw a meme in one of the Star Trek groups on Facebook the other day, and I just thought it was so sweet that somebody had pointed this out, that her hair is red now. And when she was 7 of 9 on Voyager, she was trying to remember her life as little Annika Hansen. And all she could remember was that she liked the color red.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. So now her hair is red. Oh, that's lovely. That's what the person making the meme said. And I was like, you know what? That's super sweet. I like that. Whether it's true, whether that's how they, say, hey, she's gonna have a redhead phase.
Exactly.
She always liked red.
And you know what, John? If we're in fact going to get, in some degree, the rumored next generation spinoff, I certainly would enjoy seeing Sidney LaForge as part of that. I think that character is already off and running. I mean, with very little screen time, we got a true handle of the type of person she is.
Absolutely. And one of the things that she says is, my father was one of the greatest engineers in the history of Starfleet. He also had a hard time making friends. And that is one of those things that I didn't necessarily remember from The Next Generation, but it's true. He only had a handful of friends, and he was kind of socially awkward. And I just love that. What a great detail. And what a great thing to bring forward to his daughter. His daughter's like that too. I'm totally with you. And maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit in praising characters.
Yeah.
But I just cannot get over how much I love 7 of 9 on the series Picard. I love her. One of my favorite Star Trek characters now. And in Voyager, I didn't feel that way at all.
Really? I didn't know that. Just eye candy on Voyager for you, John? I was a big, so this is jumping into something else from what is it, from popular popular fiction, popular garbage that people like. When I was a kid,
I loved Happy Days and I loved Fonzie.
Yes. I'm with
And
you.
one of the things that they did was they made the whole damn show about Fonzie. Eventually, they do a thing where he's competing against a water skiing guy, and they water ski over a shark. And that's how the phrase "jump the shark" came about, because the show sucked at that point and it never got better. That's what's called jumping the shark. I thought Voyager jumped the shark with 7 of 9.
Okay.
So that story actually came around and ended. Not a lot of my stories do that. But now, and I think it's many things, but honestly, I have to say, having grown, a year older, the show we did episode 2 on my birthday is probably one of the worst episodes I've ever done of anything streamcasting. Happy birthday to me, because it was raining and my crappy farm boy internet was all garbage and whatever. But one of the things that I'm getting, Joe, and I hope the people watching don't feel like, oh, I'm hanging out with these fuddy-duddies. I'm sure they don't use the word fuddy-duddy even. That's a very fuddy-duddy phrase. But it's the depth of the acting. I'm seeing that all over this show now, and I love it. Gates McFadden has never been better as Dr. Crusher. Honestly, Jonathan Frakes as Riker, never been better. He is hitting his highest notes here. Those are the two I can give you right off the top of my head.
Yep.
The names I'm not mentioning, there's a reason why. But people I had considered weak actors are fantastic now, and I'm just eating it up with a spoon. So enjoying it.
Well, you make a great point with the Happy Days jump the shark anecdote, and here's one that I think supports that point as well. I'm a huge Kevin James fan, particularly the King of Queens. Okay, so much so that my ex-wife and I actually went to go see a taping once, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh wow, yeah.
So then later on, King of Queens runs its course.
Yeah.
Then we have something called Kevin Can Wait.
Yes.
Same actor. They brought in Leia Remini in a desperation
eventually
move.
Yeah.
Show sucked. And you know why?
Why?
Same actors.
Yeah.
The writing. You got to have the writing, the direction. That is, the actors, if they're great, will make the most of what they are given to work with.
This is true.
But I think you're seeing a lot of that in play here. The writing is top notch in season 3 thus far.
Yeah. Yeah.
As is the direction.
It is.
Thank you, Jonathan Frakes.
Yes.
And I think one of the reactions you're having to 7 of 9, you could have known it, 25 plus years ago, whenever it was on. But you saw pretty much an embryonic 7 of 9 characterization.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing the maturity of that come to fruition.
Yes. And she has become much more human. Much more of her human side has taken over as time has gone on, which we saw a lot of in season 2, and I enjoyed quite a bit. I really like that version of 7 of 9. I love this version. This version is so not exactly Starfleet, kind of a square peg for the round hole of Starfleet, and I like that. That is good drama. That is, we get a lot of that in this. The existing crew of the Titan was Starfleet. That is just how Starfleet works. Right. And the monkey wrenches thrown into the machinery are Picard and Riker and 7 of 9, Annika Hansen, as the captain insists on calling her, dead naming her. I love that, man. Yeah. All of this conflict is so important.
Well, and that's interesting you mentioned that too, is because you mentioned conflict is, I mean, you always are giving me, deserved or otherwise, great kudos for my writing accomplishments and abilities. But one thing is basic in writing, any writing, to make it worthwhile, and that is conflict, and that is something that legend has it that Gene Roddenberry, when TNG was coming to bear, no conflict. And I said, you can't tell stories without conflict.
Yeah.
So whether it goes against Mr. Roddenberry's wishes or not, I have to say, I'm glad that they finally got to the point. It says, you know what, we need to have some storytelling elements here that work and make sense on a human level.
Good point. I mean, that was a long time ago now. We're talking 30 plus years.
Sure. So now we have that, and we saw a lot of that episode, and at some points, very surprising, which of course we'll get to in the further on in the beats. But moving on in the beats, let's mention just that very important chat between Crusher and Picard.
Oh my God!
All is confirmed.
Skip that? Did I skip that? When did that happen? Because that was huge. So yeah, please continue. Don't let me
oh no, we're right on track as far as chronology, but no, I mean, we got
the explanation. A fight, Joe. Dr. Crusher and Captain Picard, Admiral Picard, have a fight. They have a fight. It's a domestic fight. That was wild.
It was wild. I'll tell you what made it the scene stealer in this episode is that it was believable.
Yes.
They both had points of view, disagreements that by themselves were valid.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I've watched this episode twice. I watched it last week when I thought we were going to have a show. And I watched it again this evening. And I know, got to rub it in. And you know what? The first time I watched it, I thought, Crusher, I mean, you're just being totally, like Ricardo was saying, unreasonable, unfair.
Yeah.
Upon a reviewing, I said, you know what? I can see where she's coming from. I mean, a couple of points were kind of a stretch. I mean, Wesley didn't die. He just went off and did his own thing. So let's not bring him into it.
True, but she sees it as she lost him. And I kind of get that. Like, he doesn't, I mean, he left with an interdimensional traveler. Am I wrong about that?
That's correct.
And so he is lost. I mean, he's gone. So yeah, he didn't die. She didn't hold him in her arms while he, had his last breath. Boy, that's depressing. Why did that come up? But he disappeared. And so I kind of get it.
Well, I can understand the mother's sense of loss because, I mean, I'm sure Wesley isn't coming home for Christmas every year, But so that was a little bit of a reach, but I did warm up to her attitude of, I don't want Jack to have a target on his back, because she mentioned a slew of incidents that occurred over the course of John Luke's career as captain of the Enterprise that would have put anyone in the line of danger. So it was just a very effective exchange. I mean, the only thing about it that rings false is that the actor, who, as great as he is, a little bit old for the part, since we now know he was born post Nemesis. But
yes,
that's okay. We'll deal with
that. I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah, because I was, as you recall from last week, I was saying, well, maybe John Luke knocked her up when she was, sometime before the second season of TNG, and she had to go off and have the baby in secret. But that goes to my appreciation of the fact that there are unanswered questions. There are small mysteries, but we're not asked to sit for weeks at a time to get an explanation. They are solved in a realistic fashion quickly.
Yeah.
New ones introduced, resolved as quickly. So we're seeing real momentum in this story where we were definitely lacking in the previous two seasons, I think.
Yeah. I felt like in season 2 they would create these problems and then solve them, but they were clearly created problems.
Right.
And so this one is no, these are problems of the past. We kind of know these problems existed. Now we're going to visit them. Now we're going to explain them. And now there's going to be maybe a direction to a resolution. In some cases, a resolution. And that's all good.
I think it is too. And I mean, we're talking about the going down the Rabbit Canyon at the beginning of the episode of this episode.
Yeah.
By the same token, I mean, we had it wasn't a mystery box. It was like a mystery, I don't know, building or something from the previous 2 years. It just built and just kind of fizzled. But Meanwhile, Riker and John Luke Jr., as I'll call him from time to time, having a little heart to heart out there in the corridor, and you can tell that we got a little bit of this stereotypical resistant son, but Riker's setting him straight. You know what? This is a really decent man that who is your father. So
Yeah.
chaw on that for a while, Junior.
I also love the Junior basically saying, "Would you please stop looking at me with that smirk on your face?" And Riker, if I got the line right, it's something like, "I spent 20 years on a ship watching you get cooked up."
Yeah.
I love that line. And it's true. It's
It
true.
is.
Like, you are the sexual tension that I watched for 20 years.
I mean, every time I looked over, every time Beverly came on the bridge, there was that look. Yeah, you know that Will and Deanna were talking about that a lot, on their off hours.
Of course.
Will they? Won't they?
I mean, that Sam and Diane tension. There had to be something to come out of it, and we get this actor. I'm liking him more as time goes on, by the way. I don't know about
I liked him from the beginning. I mean, did you have a little misgiving at first about the particular actor and the performance, or?
I did. I felt he was a very sort of actor. It's like, oh God, what was his name? Do you remember? There's a space pirate that they meet in Next Generation, and
William Campbell or William O. Campbell or something like that.
Yeah, William Campbell plays him.
Okay.
Yeah, or Billy Campbell. The Rocketeer, I believe.
The Rocketeer.
Ooh. Deep into the weeds of trivia. I mean, it's like, oh, he's a space rascal. Seen a couple of those in my day. But no, he's holding up. I like this kid. He's got a good heart.
Yeah.
He's got a sense of honor. These are all the things you want from Bev and Picard's kid. So that's working for me.
And since you brought up the topic of Billy Campbell, I'll just throw in a quick tidbit there in the middle of our beats. This actor was seriously considered apparently for the part of Riker. So at the very beginning.
Billy Campbell.
Yes.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
That would have been a very different Riker.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine anybody else, as they say, but that would have been interesting for sure.
Yeah, interesting, because if he had gotten the role, then I would have been like, oh, this is such a phony James Kirk, which is what my friends and I were saying about Frakes as Riker anyway. Like, oh, you had to have the space cowboy. And Frakes, I just cannot say it enough. He was a soap opera actor. I did not like his acting in a lot of Next Generation. It got much better as the seasons went on. But yeah, first couple there is like, oh man, how soapy can this show get? Really soapy, as it turned out.
Well, I will digress for a moment and tell you about a fond memory I have from way back when. I've been to 3 in my life, 3 Star Trek conventions. Now, the first of those 3 was in Pasadena, one of the big ones.
Oh, yeah.
It was in the summer between seasons 1 and 2 of TNG.
Oh, wow. Early days, man.
They were actually handing out pamphlets saying, bring back Crusher, because the word had gotten out that were going to make a change in that regard.
Oh, my gosh. But
the highlight for me was up until that point, we saw very little of Riker being loose and humorous and so forth. He was very stodgy and stiff, and
true. Took a while for that to happen. Yeah.
Writing, direction, etc.
Yeah.
So it was very surprising in a pleasurable way to see Jonathan Frakes take the stage, and he just as comfortable and as humorous as you could imagine. And a small child went up to the stage, asked for his autograph, and he says, "Oh, sure." So he gets the thing. He goes, "KIRK," and hands it back. Because of course he was supposed to be the Kirk clone at the time.
God bless him. Yes. Oh, that guy. And One of the things that I'm really appreciating at this point in the episode through the beats
Mm.
is that they've established all of this emotional burden that Riker is carrying, and also
Mm.
that Dr. Crusher is carrying, and it comes across. I really appreciate it, especially when Michelle Hurd is so bad at it as Rafaela. Oh my God, she's so bad, but we'll keep going.
We'll keep going, and I have more saying that too. So,
Yeah.
but at this
Oh,
point, oh,
I just want to jump in
sure,
that I was really appreciative that we were handling the sadness that Riker is carrying over Thaddeus, because that had been uh, presented slightly in season 1, and then what? When are we ever going to hear the rest of that story? So I do appreciate that that's here too.
well, and I'll and here is the um aforementioned writer extraordinaire that you have designated me. Um, I can predict why you are appreciating that, and that's as compared to season 1,
Yeah.
because that part of the story served only the plot to bring in the so-called synth um ban, which hurt
Yeah.
the Rikers.
Right.
Now it's part of the Riker character. It's part of the man in the story.
Right.
So it serves the character, not the overall plot, and that makes it more effective and more moving.
Wow, that is such a technical thing and such a feelings thing all at the same time. That
Thank
is
you, but
so true.
that's it occurred to me as well, and that's how I put my finger on it.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, potential writers out there, make a note of that.
Make a note. I think if I find it works well for me, to put it that way.
Yeah, if you are if you are giving something to your character that serves the plot, there's also a way it affects the character. We go through this with acting all the time,
Well,
which
sure,
is
it's universal.
yeah, yeah. An actor, your character is told something, and if the actor as that character is told that you're a terrible person, and I had your kid and I refuse to tell you about it. What I will see from a lot of modern actors is, well, now I say the next line, which is, "You should have told me." But what you get from a good actor, Patrick Stewart being one of the best, is when that line is said to him, it hits. It affects him. Now he's feeling more pain than he was feeling before. Now he's carrying more of a burden than he was carrying before.
And often without dialogue.
Yes,
Just in the
exactly.
facial expressions.
Exactly. It is not in your script, which is why a lot of not great actors won't do it, because it's not in the script. One of the things that I will always love about Star Trek is that Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark on Deep Space Nine, used to do rehearsals at his house on Sunday. And I love that, because the guy's a theater guy, and he's an actor, and he's a technical guy, and he's an imagination guy. And he brings the other actors over that he's going to be working with, and they rehearse together, and they watch each other and listen to each other. And they build all of these connections that you don't have time to do on a TV set. You gotta work really fast, which is one reason why they work with daytime soap opera actors,
Right.
because those actors are great at memorizing lines, and they're great at emoting out of nothing. They're good at that. That's a job that but it doesn't translate to every other kind of acting. And the rehearsed acting and the theatrical level of acting will come through very often. We are seeing a lot of it here, and oh God, I love it so much. I love it so much.
That is a
And
very technical yet emotional and compassionate point of view, John. I'm serious.
I'll tell you what, there are, and Joe and I are the guys to tell you this, there are advantages to getting older.
Oh, I hope so, because I hope to be doing it as long as possible.
Exactly. I am never going to stop learning. I am never going to stop perfecting what I do. Never. There's no coast for me. And to tie it back into what we're watching, I see that in Patrick Stewart. I see Patrick Stewart taking on every scene as fresh as he can. And I especially see it in Gates McFadden, who has gone up 10 times from where I had her in my mind as what kind of actor she could be, what kind of star she could be. Oh my gosh, she's doing great. I love her in this episode. I love her in this series.
Well, she Gates McFadden told us going into the series, this is the best work I've ever been able to do, the best writing for the character of Beverly Crusher. And you know what? Cynical as I can be from time to time, I thought, okay, well, that's good PR. No,
right.
She meant it, and she's right.
Oh yeah, she's walking the walk.
If she had nothing else to do for the rest of this series, for this season, she's already bested, I think, whatever she did on previous works for TNG.
I absolutely agree. And the characters being treated differently this time. I have a few notes about that coming up. And that's great too. So I have to tip my hat to Terry Matalas, Alex Kurtzman, all the other executive producers and showrunners working on this series. You've done a beautiful job turning these lumps of coal from 30 plus years ago into diamonds. I'm seeing some beautiful work here and really enjoying it.
You're here. Well, moving on in the beats, I mean, we have to address, of course, next the next big battle, which lays out Shaw pretty good. I mean, it was gruesome without being sickening, like the extracting the eyeball from Icheb in season 1.
Oh,
it was just enough goriness to say Shaw is in bad shape.
Yeah,
and
that got messed up.
I loved his transfer of command. You got us in this mess, buddy. You get us out.
I have never seen. How did I write it? This is the first time I've ever seen someone rage transfer command. Transferring command through pure like, oh, it's Pontius Pilate washing his hands. It is incredible. I love that moments like this can happen where I'm like, that's the first time I've ever seen that on Star Trek. It's beautiful, beautiful, and great for the character too, because you're right. The character is so spiteful when he does it. I love it.
So he's rushed off to sickbay under the capable hands of Beverly Crusher, as it turns out later, where Dr. Oak will learn a thing or two.
Right.
And second favorite line of the episode. I think you know what's going to be my favorite line coming up. The second favorite line, we find ourselves in a little bit of role reversal with Picard and Riker.
Yeah.
Says, Will, call me number 1. It doesn't get much better than that. That was truly awesome. But it also is going to get sour pretty quick between the two of them, unfortunately.
Oh my God. I was so bowled over by that. There's so much tension and anger between the two of them. Oh my God. Gene Roddenberry spinning in his grave.
No, that would not be a Gene Roddenberry tactic for sure. And again, that's why it's fact. We don't want to see people at each other's throats necessarily, but we want to see some real human drama, and they are human after all.
Yeah. And two really good actors. Really good actors.
The combination of all of it just really drives it home. And well, as things go on, and we see good old Jack Crusher teaming up with 7 of 9, because he's realized by seeing some blood on the floor, says, hey, blood in the water, or bread, trail of breadcrumbs.
Right.
So this week's sci-fi fictional metal is leaking and creating a trail for the Shrike to follow. And surprise, surprise, here comes that security guard, and Jack takes a punch at him, and his face ripples. I didn't know I'd seen that correctly at first. I said, was that just a trick of the lighting? And so we kind of got a hint there what's coming up real quick, but I get it because I have to talk, and I'm going to bring up my phone here because I have it on a note to myself. I have to read. I
believe while I was watching that, I went,
oh, now we know. It's
yeah.
But we do have finally the official first meeting between Raffaella, as Worf calls her, and Worf.
Yeah.
You'll forgive me. I mean, this has been done 100 times in the past 6 days, but here we go, John. The best line in the entire episode. I am Worf, son of Moog, house of Martok, son of Sergei, house of Rozhenko, bane to the Duras family, and slayer of Gowron. I made some chamomile tea. Do you take sugar? Wasn't that great?
I loved that. And that has, as Joe says, that has been turned into a million memes. I saw one where somebody wrote it on the side of a Starbucks cup.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
That was a good meme. My favorite one was they cut to Rafi, who says, father of Alexander. Is that it?
Yes. He was father to Alexander, and still is, as far as I know. Father to Alexander.
Yeah, she goes, father of Alexander, and Worf goes, who? Because there's that joke about they never mention Alexander. He's a terrible father because he doesn't pay any attention to Alexander.
I know. We know our friend Flo was not too crazy about that aspect of Worf, or Worf in general, but maybe this line helped warm him up a little bit too. We'll have to ask him the next time we talk to him. But
Yeah.
I think the only introduction that might rival that one is one we heard a few times from good old Laxwana Troy. I'm Laxwana Troy, daughter of the fifth house, holder of the sacred chalice of Rix, heir to the holy rings of Beta Z.
I always loved that. I always loved that. I mean, I think it's Heinlein who used to say that the difference between science fiction and fantasy is science fiction has science and fantasy can have, space and science and spacesuits, but there's always like a prince and a princess and there's a king and, and I always loved how Star Trek managed to have that both. I mean, because there are monarchies, there are people who are, the one who is the heir to the rings of Beta Z. Like, I love that stuff.
I love it too. Remind me, John, when we get to the predictions, I do have a Worf Rafi prediction, which I think you'll find amusing. So.
Oh, I will definitely find that amusing. I can tell you right now.
Oh, of course. So we decide they need to go after this guy, Titus Ricca.
Yes.
Who apparently paid the Ferengi from last week to lie about the Romulans. So what's up with Titus Ricca? Well, we got to go pick him up.
Yeah.
So they managed to get him after Worf throws him through a table. And it's time for a little Good Cop, Bad Cop starring Worf and Rafi.
By the way, the move that Worf used to put him through the table was called the rock bottom.
The rock bottom.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson, the Rock, used to do that. You put your arm across the guy, you lift him up, and you slam him down on something.
Well, hey, so this is absolutely the complete Star Trek Picard episode because now we have a wrestling tidbit reference. So it's got everything. It's got it all.
It's got everything in part 3. Agreed.
But they start to drill this poor guy, and he's looking at us. He got the DTs. Rafi had the Klingon target on her back not long ago, so she knows how that feels. And said, man, but after a while says, this is not withdrawals. This is something else. And Worf says, so how long have you been away from the Great Link, my man? They go, okay, now we know for sure.
That was the second time I went, oh!
Now,
I mean, the punch was something because I was like you, I was like, I don't know if that's a changeling thing or if that's a hologram thing or, there could be a couple of reasons why he might ripple like that. But now you know for sure.
Now you know for sure. And because in the previous instance with the security officer, it's like, even though they finally turned up the lights on the ship, thank God, it still could have been like a trick of the shadows or something. But no, we know for sure now. I said, okay, what's happening here with the changing? Now, I was unclear about this at first when he finally just couldn't hold his shape anymore.
Yeah.
At first I thought it looks so bad and nasty when he turned into his form. I thought, was he dying? But I guess that's just an improved special effect from before.
Exactly. And and so I must assume, and I'm only assuming this, based on the you remember there was the episode of Deep Space Nine where Odo and Loaxana are stuck in an elevator shaft or something. I don't know.
Yes.
It's one,
Yeah, in the turbo lift.
So yeah, some disaster, some Irwin Allen disaster movie thing where they're stuck together, and he is in such great pain. This is when we've seen someone, a changeling, trying so hard to maintain his shape, and
Right.
she basically says, "You have to trust me. Just trust me, and I will take care of you." And he turns into liquid. I think she's got like her dress or something, and she basically cups him,
Right.
and holds him. Now, with no one to do that for you, why was he working so hard to maintain his shape? Well, I think we find out because when he turns into the goo monster and he tries to crawl away, freaking Worf just basically takes a laser and cooks him,
Yeah.
boiled him off like a pot of chowder.
Well,
on fry.
not just any laser, John, but an official bona fide TNG series era phaser.
Is that what that was?
Yep. Old school.
You hear how high my voice goes? That's how you know I'm really surprised.
But
Holy
Rafi, she said, "Hey, don't let him get away because in a
yeah.
minute now he's going to be able to take the flight of the shape of a bird, and he's gone."
Yes. And we saw that with spies, with changeling spies. One of my favorite things was, they can run and then turn into a bird, and you're like, oh, what am I gonna do now? He's gone. Yeah,
So
that
yes,
was
it
wild.
appears that my earlier prediction of the conspiracy bugs is probably not going to come to fruition. It is actually the changeling, so that's okay. Makes more sense.
Conspiracy bugs are still out there.
They're
If
still out there.
anyone wants to use them, they're there to be used. Let's I think tell me if I'm correct here in jumping to one of the beats. We've got the Vitarium, and we find out that in its gaseous form it's poison.
Right.
And that is filling up this room where JL Jr., where Jack Crusher is stuck, and he's dying. And we do realize that, oh God, I knew this guy's name too. Foster, Ensign Foster, is the changeling aboard the Titan. So he has messed up Crusher, left Crusher in there to die. Now, Crusher has a vision.
Yes.
What did you get out of that, Joe?
I think it's pretty early.
Yeah.
Basically, we have two things to ponder.
Okay.
7 of 9 saying connect the branches with the branches spread out behind her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some kind of odd part, door ajar with red light coming through. Red seems to be a predominant aspect of a lot of Star Trek these days.
I mean, after the Red Angel in Discovery.
And the Red Lady earlier this year.
Oh, the Red Lady. My goodness. Look at us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little weird that we're getting all these parallels. I don't know if there's anything to make out of them. What do you think?
Well, the only thing I can say, and again, since this is in total jest, I won't save it for the prediction section, but you yourself mentioned, hey, all these things from other sci-fi franchises are coming into play. So maybe that's what the branches are. It's just all that stuff coming in.
The connections to the Invaders and Battlestar Galactica.
No, I'm going to, and you know what? But since we're going to be doing another show tomorrow night, maybe by then we'll have more to talk about as far as the connect the branches and the red door.
I do have something for predictions on this, and I hope I remember to mention it. So I'm going to write it down.
We'll do that real quick, and I'll just wrap up the beats, I think, because we're getting toward the end here. But
yeah,
I think one of the coolest parts of the portal weapon. Well, don't let me forget this part. We have determined, Worf and Rafi, hey, there's something even more insidious that has been stolen from Daystrom. Even worse than the portal weapon.
Yes,
of course, this can only be lore. This can only be lore.
Oh, I disagree.
Oh, okay. Let's wait for predictions. We'll get to that.
Yes.
But then finally,
because I was thinking the same thing, and then when I watched it the second time, I was like, "Wait a minute." So yeah.
Okay. Look forward to that. Just wrapping it up. I mean, I think we can go on to say that Jean-Luc wants to fight. Riker doesn't, wants to hide. finally, Riker acquiesces to Picard's thinking. But you know what? I didn't see it coming. So, of course, if I don't see it coming, how could Picard? I mean, but the use of the portal weapon to swallow up its own photon torpedoes and just fire right in the back of him. That was cool. That was
fire everything we've got. And then it heads out and they whip up the portal and then they open it behind the Titan, and everything the Titan just fired hits the Titan. Wild.
Yeah.
I loved it, and it was awful. I hated it at the same time.
Well, I mean, again, the portal weapon generally is a brand new concept in the Trek universe, and that part of it is another new aspect of it. So
yeah.
This brings, of course, to our most hurtful and horrible confrontation. Riker says, Jean-Luc, get your ass off the bridge, man. You basically sentenced us all to die. We're sinking into the gravity well, and to be continued.
They're at dead stick. They have no control over the ship. The ship's being sucked into the gravity well. It is a freaking nightmare. And that was my third woe of the night, where I was like, no, you're ending it there. Damn. So impressed with this episode. As you know, second episode, I was a little shaky, like, oh, hey, I don't know. I don't like all this stuff. So much paid off in this episode. Remove yourself from the bridge. You've just killed us all.
And it's I just Klingon night dagger in the heart right there. Yeah.
throw me on the barge and head me to Stovacor.
Well, Captain, I'm gonna make a request and ask that we go right to predictions, because I want to hear your prediction about what was stolen from Daystrom.
Well, I predict. Okay, here's the thing. My predictions. I predict. Hang on, I gotta get you out of there. There we go. I predict that the connect the branches, or follow the branches, whatever that is, the red door. I think the biological element of this black hole / gravity well. I think there is an intelligence. I think that's where that vision of 7 came from. I don't think it was anyway literally 7 of 9. I think it was Jax maybe got a thing for 7 of 9, because come on, who wouldn't?
Oh yeah, come on,
please. And somehow the mysteries of that woman have aligned in his mind with the mysteries of this force, this life force that's communicating with him, and of course not able to communicate really well. So that is my first prediction.
Before we move on to the next one, can I add to your prediction?
Please do.
It just occurred, and I'm not going to go as far as to call it a prediction, but it would be cool.
Yeah.
Now we have a Deep Space Nine connection.
Yeah.
Could we be looking at another access to the wormhole aliens? What were they called in Deep Space Nine?
The prophets.
The prophets, exactly.
The prophets, or the did they call them black hole aliens? Or
well, they called them wormhole aliens at first, and in the prophets. But basically, I mean, it fits the pattern of using the form of a person to communicate to people outside their realm.
You just blew my mind.
Well, I wouldn't have thought of it, hadn't been for yours. So let's see what happens tomorrow. But what's your second prediction?
My second prediction is what Rafi refers to as the real weapon, the thing that was really stolen from the Daystrom Institute.
Right.
Was Moriarty.
Oh.
I think the Moriarty box. I think the little box that they trapped Moriarty in. Now, granted, lore, we know, is showing up at some point.
Right.
So I think lore is a very smart guess. I think it's a really smart prediction. But where would Moriarty be, especially since that Enterprise had been taken out of commission, decades ago, I'm assuming at this point, 1 or 2 decades ago. Anyway, years ago, it's been taken out. So what would you do with the Moriarty box? What would you do with that living, sentient hologram? I think he would go to Daystrom.
Well, that would be a logical place. I mean, artificial intelligence in that case is, just, I mean, clear. I think both artifacts would be there, meaning lore, because when he was deactivated by Data, they were under his, under his control. He didn't escape.
Yeah.
Based on the events we saw at that point. I mean, they basically probably took him apart and like B4 and stuck him in there for safekeeping. So
yeah,
maybe a combination of the two somehow.
I mean, that would be super duper, like, uber cool. I would be all into that, because both of them are kind of, in my estimation, sort of equal in menace and destruction.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see, because I don't know. I can't predict what these showrunners are going to do. I can't predict what they're going to have the writers write. They stay ahead of me, and that makes it really interesting to watch this show. Now, you, Mr. Townsell, what kind of predictions do you have for us?
Well, I mean, I just had that on the spot one, so that's going to be my claim to fame for the week, I think. As far as building on your prediction, is I think if it was one of the prophets or the wormhole aliens, I think that would be very interesting. Oh,
sorry, I just took the music out of it so that we could.
Now I predict. So I'm going to piggyback largely on you this week, Captain, and building upon the lore and Moriarty deal. I mean, it would be very fascinating to see the two of them teamed up in some capacity, since obviously Moriarty in the holodeck was created as a antagonist for Data. So what better ally to Moriarty would be Lore?
Good call, boy. Yeah, I would love if that was how they did it, because I think they're both two incredible villains from Next Generation. It is very respectful. It is very, it's very right to bring them back at the same time. And you know me, I love Lore. Lore was one of my favorite characters of all time in Star Trek. The evil Data. I just love that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's been rumored persistently that we either see or at least have reference to the fact that the Enterprise D saucer section was recovered.
Yes.
And to some extent repaired and put on display at the Starfleet Museum, which Geordi LaForge now presides over, apparently.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I'm sure that's where we're going to see him come in.
Yeah, I mean, we know from the preview, the season preview, that he's the one who recognizes Lore.
Yes.
So there's a lot there. Like, that should happen. What I don't want is for them to go, Moriarty is out of control. We have to do a Silence of the Lambs thing. So we have to bring Lore out because Lore can find him. I wouldn't like that. That would not please me. So that's sort of an anti-prediction. That's a prediction of, if you do that, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, and I guess another prediction, possibly, although I'm kind of have mixed feelings about it, is the revelation that Leia Brahms is actually the two LaForge girls' mother.
Oh, yeah, I think I had heard that, and I was okay with that.
I'm okay with that. To me, it wouldn't be like, oh, okay, nice, but I'd also be just as happy if it was somebody totally different and new.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not mentioned at all, but.
Right. From All Good Things, we were given, I mean, and that was one of All Good Things, the final episode of Next Generation. They do tease that he gets the implants. So he doesn't wear the visor anymore.
Right.
But also that he marries that doctor. He marries that scientist, and that's the mother of his gals. It is funny though. I look at Ms. LaForge's hair, and I go, I think they're trying to tell us that is her mother's. She got some of her mother's hair.
Well, plus we haven't seen daughter number 2 yet, so.
Right. We don't know anything about daughter number 2.
Yeah,
I'd love to learn more there too.
I'm sure after tomorrow's episode, we will both have more predictions. So.
All right, let's. Are we ready to jump to MVPs?
Sure.
All right. All right. Now, you said your MVP for the last 2 episodes was Riker.
That's my pick for both episodes, parts 1 and 2. Yes.
I am going to be completely uninteresting and say week 3 for me, it's Riker. I Riker standing up to Picard, having this argument, and honestly, I didn't know which one of them was right. So it was a great argument. We should run. I should get these people home to safety, says Riker. No, we should fight. This is how we're going to stop this villain, says Picard. And he's wrong. Picard is wrong. And Riker just carries a lot of emotional payload in this episode. So it's not that interesting to say, once again, it's Riker, but that's what I'm saying. But you have a new pick for this week, right?
I have a new pick. I mean, it was tough. I'm right there with you with Riker. I think he's going to be one of the MVPs. I mean, for one thing, other than Jean-Luc himself, he's the only TNG character that's in every single episode this season.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
So he's an important player, to be sure.
He is.
And of course, I considered Crusher as well. Well, there's a lot of Crusher revelation, a lot of things we learned about her, but I might be even more predictable than you this week, John. I'm going to have to give it to Worf. To me, he was just the highlight of the episode.
Well, that's fantastic, because I got to tell you, in my reckoning, the B story, I think that would be our B story, right? Would be Worf and Rafi.
That would be the B story until they converge, at least, yes.
Yeah. I was not loving the B story at all. Not that into it, not attached to it. And then when Worf is introduced, I'm like, oh, well, with the opera glasses. Well, let's see how this turns out. So yes, I totally agree with that. He was really impressive. And I am a Worf fan as well. Sorry, Flobo boys.
What's wrong, Flobo? We gotta get him to watch it. At least that
he will not. No, honestly, he killed any desire I had to make him like Worf. He hates Worf. There's no beating that. We got to get him to watch this part of the show.
Let's get him to watch it, and just for giggles, we can maybe use it as a promo. Let's get him to read Worf's introduction from this episode. Flobo.
All right, we'll work on him this week. We'll see what we can get out of.
But it wasn't. The story elements were great, but for me, what just made Worf the MVP for me for episode 3 was two things. I mean, he just had the best lines and just the greatest performance in the delivery of those lines. This is a well-rounded Klingon. He's got it all going on.
Yeah, and honestly, Michael Dorn, who plays Worf, is again, as I've been saying about the other actors, he's so much better. He's so much deeper. There's so much soul to what he's doing. I really love this guy. When I heard in the preview that he was like, I do not believe in violence solving, all your problems anymore. I was like, oh, I'm going to hate this version of Worf. Not true at all. I really like this version of Worf.
He's just grown and matured. I mean, you may keep your fingernails, Good cop, bad cop. Who would ever thought that Worf would be the good cop in that scenario? But
exactly. This is a very different, not as predictable Worf, and I'm really enjoying him. So yeah, good choice. I'm
as was yours. I mean, it's hard to pick an MVP in this series thus far because they're all shining, and we're just seeing huge leaps and bounds of their characters and how they're serving this storyline.
Let's jump to. I gotta be able to do it fast. All right, Mr. Townsville.
All right, well,
tell us about Townsville's tidbits for this week.
I've got some, which doesn't mean, of course, I'm sure you have a few of your own, but
couple.
I got a little of a list this week. There's quite a few, and they're actually of not just fans. Again, the improvement of this season over the last 2, they're not just fan service. That's fun.
Yeah.
Spotting these things here and there, they're fun. But a lot of these actually serve the story.
Yes.
And they're worthwhile. So here we go. I mentioned earlier that one of the tidbits I had is I'm placing the flashback around 2381, which would be the because we know that Nemesis took place in 2379.
Ooh. And that's the year that Riker and Troy got married, correct?
Exactly.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking 2381, more or less. We're going to have Thaddeus come along, which means, unfortunately, the little tyke passed away around 2396. So it's a pretty fresh wound when we see Riker and Troy in season 1 of Picard.
Damn.
It's only been a couple years.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one of the fan service things, which again is so cool, it was not that hard to spot.
Yeah.
As we're going to Seven's quarters for the first time, we do get a nice little model of Voyager there that helps keep her remembering fond memories.
Hang on, got to cross off one of my tidbits. All right,
oh, you got that one. Okay, well, like I said, that wasn't a pretty easy to spot on that one.
Yeah, it was.
Now I did go back and look at Nemesis for a few minutes to make sure this was accurate. One of the many things that Beverly refers to as far as the dangerous situations that Jean-Luc was in, was a kidnapping on Caleria, which was the rough and tumble planet where Jean-Luc drove his dune buggy in Nemesis.
Oh my
so apparently there were some developments there later on.
Oh yeah. Wow, that's way back. Okay.
Yeah, that goes back a bit,
man.
We have references in that same list of traumatizing events to the Remans. We now have the Denatra sector, of course, Denatra being the Romulan lady who helps Jean-Luc in the final battle of Nemesis.
Oh yeah.
So maybe she went on to become Praetor, which has been the Romulan title since the beginning.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
make a ton of sense.
Probably my favorite. Which John, I hope I'm stealing this from you too, but I did look up the title. It hit me right away. The segment of opera that Worf is listening to during his exercises is by Berlioz, titled Violon Sonore, which was what Picard was listening to in First Contact.
Boom. Damn. Well done.
Well, I recognize the tune right away, but I did dig up the title at least so I could sound somewhat intelligent giving it forth here.
Wow.
This next one is kind of like a tidbit. It's actually more, I should have made this during the predictions. I'll do it now. If Worf is drinking chamomile tea, I don't know why I wasn't drinking Earl Grey. I think that would have been really great, but chamomile's good.
Right.
But he did tell Rafi at the end as they went off together, so we are now partners. Well, if they're now warriors together, what you want to bet that tomorrow night they're going to be drinking some prune juice because it's a warrior's drink. And one that others have touched on, which I'll just mention here.
Yeah.
Actor named Thomas Dekker.
Yes.
Who played the Changeling.
Yes.
Titus was, of course, the young kid who played one of Jean-Luc's imaginary children in Star Trek Generations.
Boom. I loved that guy too. He was doing such a great job. I was like, this guy isn't just out of nowhere. This actor is somebody. He's something. Holy cow. That's what he played. Because I remember seeing, I think it was on Memory Alpha, some mention of that. And I was like, I don't remember that. And I don't really have time to look it up. So moving on.
Yeah, when you, during the fantasy Christmas scene, he's like the little blonde child with the bowl haircut. Here, Papa.
And he's a good actor.
His performance this week was great. I mean, wow, he looked like he was really tortured and, F you and all this stuff at the same time. Yeah. And a lot of people recognize the actor when we saw some of the previews going into the season. And we knew that we were pretty sure we were going to meet Jean-Luc's son. They thought that he might actually be Jean-Luc's son, that actor.
Right. He had played that role.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, Dekker. Is the lead character, Blade Runner. That's his last name. Where are you? I think I'm asking my
I think it's the same spelling too.
Right now. Yes, it is. It is. And this actor also showed up on other episodes. This is a guy they've used before. And I kind of like that. Yeah, I can't get it to come up on my rinky dink. Okay.
Thomas I stole one of yours, John. Do you have others that I missed?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can tell you that Thomas Dekker, playing Thomas Picard in Star Trek Generations, as you just
All right.
pointed out, he also played Henry Burley in 2 episodes of Star Trek Voyager.
Hmm.
So he was one of the younger guys that they had at some point on there. He's hell, he was on The Young and the Restless as a kid. That's impressive. Okay, so let me get back to doing a show, which is what you and I are doing. What did I pick up on? Well, at first I was trying to figure out what 7 of 9 was doing when we saw the Voyager model, and then she's working on something, and I was like, is she working on her like RPG miniatures? Like, I think she was working on a piece of machinery. Having a hard time with that. I had a couple other catches in here. Oh, yes. Ensign Foster on the Titan. He is the changeling who attacks Jack Crusher. He's played by Chad Lindberg. Chad Lindberg has done no other Star Trek stuff, but he was a very, very recognizable actor for me. So I had to go look him up. I think I recognize him from he played a character named Ash on Supernatural.
Okay.
And he's probably best known for Fast and the Furious. If only Flobo was here. He played Jesse from the Fast and the Furious. Flobo loves that franchise, and he was recurring on CSI New York, another one of Flobo's favorite things. Flobo would have dug at least that part of this show. And I
not the wharf parts, but that part.
Yes, exactly. Oh, the wharf parts. He would have left the room. But yeah, I think that's all I picked up on. Every once in a while, I'll catch an actor that I really like. And this week it was Chad Lindberg. And Chad Lindberg seems like a really cool guy because he's also done documentaries about ghost hunting.
Oh.
Because he's encountered ghosts in his life and he loves doing that. And I'm like, go for it. I support people in those wild endeavors. Yeah. So anything else you want to cover, Mr. Townsend, or is that
well, we got the beats, we got the predictions, we got the tidbits. I think look where we are. We're almost an hour and a half in, but you know what? We didn't waste a lot of time. And there was a lot to cover here. And I have a feeling it's gonna be similar tomorrow because I've heard that like episodes 4 and 5 are just extraordinary. Best yet.
Not only that, but my buddy who had seen I think he'd seen the first 7 or 8 episodes when he and I were talking, because he gets advanced copies or whatever.
Sure.
He said episode 6 is legendary.
Really?
Episode 6 is gonna just knock you off your pins. So we are entering, if I may make another prediction, I think we might be entering a trilogy of episodes, because I think you're right about 4 and 5.
Yeah.
That are going to change everything and raise the stakes even more. I'm hoping that Rafi and Worf, encounter Geordi. That's a big prediction for me right now.
Well, I mean, it seems like we're getting close because we know he's heading up the Starfleet, the Starship Museum, which I assume is just a bunch of ships floating around somewhere, and people go and tour them. Oh, and we haven't seen Geordi, we haven't seen Deanna really. We saw a flashback of her briefly, and of course Laura's on the horizon, as is Moriarty. So there's a lot of great stuff we haven't even touched on yet.
That's right. Yeah. So lots of good things gonna come up on the show. That's pretty much it for tonight for me and Joe. If you've watched this, oh, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Well, if they watch us through the end, John, it means they're having a great time with us, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. And I will just say this, Joe, I didn't say this when we were off the air, so I'll just say this now. This is the old internet I'm using. So as hinky as it's been tonight, the new internet should be better. And we should have that. I don't know if we'll have it by tomorrow night. I think they may not be able to put it together till next week, but this is the sort of hinky internet I've been working with.
We'll get through those biological nebulae and ion storms together, John.
No kicking you off the bridge, sir.
Please don't get me off the bridge.
Ladies and gentlemen, joetownsend.com is a great website. You should go visit it. It's beautifully put together by our own Mr. Townsend. He is an artiste. And I was on the website yesterday. I won't tell you why. I'll let you be surprised.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. It's because my family's been asking what they could buy for me for my birthday. And I'm like, you got to go over to joetownsend.com and you get all Joe's books for me. That's what I want.
Oh, my goodness. Really? Well, thank you. And thank you, family. Happy birthday, John. Hopefully I won't give you too many nightmares for your birthday, but
I know you will.
Awesome.
But that's the thing. You're a good writer. I know you will. You still make some decent money if someone buys your books off of Amazon, right?
Doesn't matter. Any form, any platform. Yeah.
Perfect. And I insisted on paperbacks. I did not want Kindle.
Oh.
It's my birthday.
Yeah, you need something to hold in your hot little hands.
Exactly. Something I can put on the shelves behind me.
Well, another reason to get those paperbacks, John, is you and I are planning to see each other in the near future, and I will be happy to autograph them at that time.
Oh my God. Oh, we're going to do a video of that for sure.
Awesome.
I don't know if it's a long form, short form. I don't know, but that will be captured for posterity for sure. And yes, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to you coming out to the farm and
the avocado grove.
And you and I not having a frozen screen for even a minute as we talk. Be with us tomorrow. That will be 2 p.m. in the afternoon if you're here on the West Coast, early evening, 5 p.m. on the East Coast, Mountain Time, where Joe is, 4 p.m. Tea time.
Correction, 3.
Oh, it's 3. Oh, look at me.
Only an hour difference. But you know what, John? As of Sunday, you and I are on the same page. Thank God.
Thank God we could finally get that daylight savings time period over and done with. So yeah, join us tomorrow afternoon if you can. Join us Thursdays after the show debuts on Paramount Plus. You're probably going to want to watch it right away. That's what Joe and I like to do. So you can join us and talk about it. That's what we do here on PICARDEST. And Joe, anything you want to say to the folks as we wrap it up?
Just keep on trucking and keep on enjoying Picard as we are.
I say this with all due sincerity and love on behalf of myself and Joe Townsend. Live long and prosper. Thanks for watching us. Please come back. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, John.
See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Oh, I turned off the wrong. I'm so bad at this. I am terrible at this. I have no idea what I'm doing.